You are about to stop doing something. I just don't know what. Either you're going to stop scrolling and spend a minute with me, or you're going to stop watching this video and keep on scrolling. I wonder which one might be better for your future. So let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself doing the very thing you promised yourself that you wouldn't do again? I mean those moments where you suddenly notice you're halfway into the behavior before you've even consciously chosen it. You've picked up your phone for no particular reason, and then a few seconds later, you realize you're just flicking up, 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 not even really looking for anything. Maybe not even remembering what you opened it for in the first place. Or maybe you've had that strange moment where you've suddenly realized you're already vaping. The thing is in your hand, it's at your mouth, and you don't even remember the decision. Or maybe it's food or a drink. Or maybe it's not that obvious. Maybe it's snapping at your kids. Maybe it's stress eating. Maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it's road rage. Maybe it's pouring the drink. Maybe it's gambling. Maybe it's some pattern that you've been running for so long that you don't even think of it as a behavior anymore. You just think of it as you. And that's where this gets serious. Because most people, when they notice a behavior they want to stop, go in one of two directions. They either try to cut down or slow it down. They tell themselves they'll do it less often, be more careful, be a little more disciplined, get it under control. Or they go the other way. They make some big declarations. That's it. Never again. This time I'm serious. This time I'm going cold turkey. This time I'm going to use willpower and crush this thing once and for all. And if you've ever done that, you already know what usually happens next. You last for a while, sometimes a few hours, sometimes a few days, maybe even sometimes a few weeks. And then somehow, almost mysteriously, you find yourself right back at it again. If that has happened to you often enough, something very dangerous starts to happen. You stop blaming the behavior and you start blaming yourself. You start to wonder if maybe you're weak, maybe you lack discipline, maybe you just don't follow through. Maybe you're the kind of person that can start things but not finish them. Maybe this is just who you are. But I want to suggest to you that this may be one of the biggest misunderstandings in the whole field of behavior change. Because what if the reason stopping has been so hard for you has very little to do with weakness? What if the problem is not that you're broken? What if the problem is that you've been trying to stop something in a way that completely misunderstands what's actually been happening? You see, human beings are incredibly good at acquiring behaviors. In fact, this is one of the great survival advantages of being human. We learn through observation. We learn through repetition. We learn through modeling and admiration. We learn through practice. And eventually, if we repeat something enough times, that behavior becomes automatic, which is brilliant, by the way, because if you had to consciously think through every behavior you run in a day, you'd be exhausted before breakfast. Automatic behaviors free up attention. They allow you to do things while still monitoring the environment, still paying attention, still staying safe. That's not a design flaw. That's one of the most elegant features of the human nervous system. The problem is not that you create automatic behaviors. The problem is that modern life allows automatic behaviors that are doing you harm. And that brings me to what I believe is the real issue here, what I call the survival mismatch pattern. The survival mismatch pattern is what happens when a behavior that is no longer serving you or may even be harming you gets picked up by ancient survival code and gets treated as though it still belongs. In nature, bad behaviors were usually trained out pretty quickly. If a behavior was dysfunctional, dangerous, costly, or stupid, nature tended to make that very clear very fast. The feedback loop was tight, but today, not so much. Today, you can run a behavior for years before the true consequences arrive. You can smoke for 20 years before cancer shows up. You can scroll away your focus, your time, your creative energy, your attention, your presence, and still not feel the full cost of it in a single afternoon. You can stress eat, procrastinate, self-sabotage, snap at people you love, avoid the work that matters the most, and the consequences are often subtle, delayed, or spread out over time. So what happens? Your nervous system starts making an ancient calculation. It starts saying something like this. Well, you did it yesterday and you survived. You did it last week and you survived. You've been doing it for years and you're still here. So it must be helping. It must belong. It must be one of your survival strategies. Now, logically, of course, that may be nonsense. Smoking is not protecting your survival. Scrolling is not protecting your survival. Procrastination is not protecting your survival. But in the moment, many of these behaviors do create relief. They reduce stress. They create distraction, they dull discomfort, they provide a hit of certainty, comfort, reward, escape, and control. But because of that, when you try to stop them with brute force, your system often reacts as though you are threatening your own survival. That's why stopping can feel so unbelievably hard. Because what you think of as just a bad habit may actually be wired in like survival software. And if you don't understand that, you'll keep making the same mistake. You'll keep trying to overpower something that first needs to be understood. Now, here's the good news, and this really is the good news. Once people actually see the pattern, everything can change. This is what I've watched happen over and over again. People show up believing they need to brace themselves. They think they're about to enter another fight, another program, another struggle, another test of willpower, another round of white knuckling their way through temptation. And then something surprising happens. They begin to understand the pattern underneath the behavior. They see how it got built. They see why it's stuck. They see what it has been doing for them. They see where the mismatch is. And in many cases, behavior starts losing power almost immediately. Sometimes people don't need nearly as much willpower as they thought. Sometimes the craving weakens dramatically. Sometimes they suddenly realize the off-ramp in real time and step out of the pattern. Sometimes, quite honestly, the behavior just stops. Not because they forced it to stop, but because they finally understood it well enough that it no longer held the same grip. That is a very different experience of freedom. Because when you're trying to quit something with brute force, freedom feels like the behavior. If you're craving a cigarette, then the cigarette feels like the freedom. It feels like the relief. If you're craving the scroll, then the scroll feels like freedom. If you're craving the drink, then the drink feels like freedom. But what if that changed? What if freedom stopped living inside the behavior? What if freedom began to live on the other side of it? Then everything changes. And that's what Stop It Sundays are about. Stop It is not an instruction. It's not me looking at you and saying, come on, just stop it. It's not moralizing. It's not shaming. It's not another lecture about discipline. Stop It is a consciousness activation. It's the moment where you begin to see something clearly enough that you can actually interrupt it. It's an awakening. It's a pattern recognition. It's understanding why the thing is there, why it's been hard to break, and what actually needs to happen for that pattern to loosen its hold. And on Stop It Sunday, that's exactly what we do. You'll learn how behavior cessation really works. You'll begin to understand your own nature more deeply. You'll have the opportunity to discover your Stop It profile and begin to understand your particular style of stopping. And perhaps most importantly, you'll have the chance to experience this work in real time. This is interactive. This is live. This is not just you sitting there passively listening to ideas or watching videos. You may be coached personally by me. You will certainly have the chance to witness real coaching and real breakthroughs. And we have seen people let go of behaviors on the very same day. Scrolling, smoking, drinking, self-harming patterns, and others. Now, I want to be very clear about something. This is not magic. It's not hype. And it's not me telling you that all change is instant and easy. What I am saying is that when people finally understand the survival mismatch pattern, and when they finally understand the actual architecture of the behavior they've been trapped in, change can happen much faster and much more naturally than ever imagined. That's the point. Not more force, better understanding. Not more shame, better awareness. Not another fight, a different kind of freedom. And maybe that matters more than you realize. Because 6 months from now, the pain of your behavior may still not be dramatic enough to scare you. That's part of the problem. You may not have blown up the relationship yet. You may not have lost the money yet. You may not have fully seen the cost yet. But every day you run a behavior that violates what some wiser part of you knows is true, there is a price. A small erosion of self-trust, a small erosion of self-esteem, a small erosion of executive function, and a general loss of self-respect. And alongside that, there is the opportunity cost. The book not written, the body not built, the calm not cultivated, the relationships not strengthened, the freedom not claimed. So this is your chance to step in before more time slips by, to understand what has really been happening, to stop making this mean something terrible about you, and to discover, just maybe, the thing you've been trying to force for years can begin to change when you finally see it clearly. If this makes sense to you, then join me for Stop It Sunday. Come and experience what it feels like when stopping no longer feels like punishment and freedom no longer lives inside the behavior. Because this may be the moment where something finally clicks. This may be the moment where you stop trying harder and start stopping differently. This may be your chance to find out that yes, you really can do it now. If you're sitting there thinking, this makes sense, this might actually be a chance to change, then I want you to listen to that, because that voice matters. That is the part of you that already knows something needs to change. That part of you that is tired of repeating the same pattern. That part of you that is ready for a different relationship with your own behavior, your own choices, and your own life. So I want you to join me for Stop It Sunday. This is a chance for you to come and learn more about the nature of behavior and the nature of behavior cessation, your own stop style, and what might really be going on underneath the pattern that you've been trying to break. And by the way, for some people, that shift starts right there on that day, not months later, not someday, that day. You can register right now at stopitsummit.com. And because transformation should not be reserved for people who can easily afford it, you can name your own price to attend, even if that price is free. I am not going to let money get in the way of your transformation. So come and join us. Let this be the month you stop telling yourself you'll deal with it later. And let's see what becomes possible when you finally understand what's really been keeping the pattern alive. Register now. I'll see you on Sunday.